What's up, guys? So today we got this camp trailer we got to do some work on. The owner has bent one of the jacks on it, so we got to cut the old bracket off. He brought me the new bracket, and we've got to make some ears for it so we can weld it back so it looks factory. So we can walk over here and take a look at it. If you look here, he's just got two bolts sitting in it, but you can see it's completely bent over. These new trailers are so heavy, and these trailers this big are so heavy that they put hydraulic jacks on them now. And so obviously these don't go up any further than that, which is pretty crappy design, but he ended up dragging this one and dang near broke it off. But we're just gonna unhook the hydraulic lines, pull the jack off. We gotta cut this bracket off so that I know how to build the ears, and then we'll get rolling. Okay, so we're gonna start with replacing the jack bracket and getting the jack back on. But the other thing the customer wanted us to look at was he wants us to put a hitch on the back of his fifth wheel trailer so that he can tow doubles. This is something that I'm pretty comfortable with. I've replaced quite a few of these. The hitch that comes on them is only rated for about anywhere from 300 to 1,200 pounds, depending on your trailer manufacturer. It's not worth risking it, and so we're just going to cut this one off. We're going to build a full-sized, full-capacity trailer hitch, and we're going to weld it up underneath the trailer and get it set up so he can pull doubles safely. The only type of trailer I would do this on is a fifth wheel trailer. You don't want to do it with a bumper pull. It's just too sketchy. I've seen guys that are pulling doubles with bumper pulls, and they get way too much whip and way too much action out of their trailer. So we'll start with the jack, and then we'll come back and we'll take a look at the hitch. So let's get after it. Okay. So we're just getting ready to pull our two bolts off of our jack here. We're just going to use 3/4 wrench and our Milwaukee M18 1/2-inch impact drill that we found driving home from camping last week. Maybe we're not.
Why?
Down. See if we can't get douched 3 more times. There. Oh, you dirty rotten. All right. Got our hydraulic lines disconnected. We can get those out of the way. Now we got to start figuring out how we want to cut that off. If you look at the welds on that sucker, they're not exactly something you want to write home to Ma about. We got some dandies over here, which is pretty typical of most of these trailer manufacturers. They look like dog poop, so. Alright, we're going to figure out how we want to cut this off and go from that point. Alright, we got a plan together. We're going to use the plasma with a gouging tip. Just scarf off those welds. Try not to burn up anything we don't want to. Okay, so we've got a shirt wrapped around some of these hoses that we don't want to burn. And we're just going to take our plasma and we're going to have to scarf these welds off. If I feel inside here, they've welded the inside too, so it's going to be quite a treat getting it off. We're just going to see what we can do, and hopefully we don't start the trailer on fire. Okay, so here's the bracket he brought me. And here's the bracket that came off of it. So, as you can see, there's no ears on this one, so we get to figure out how to build some ears. Shouldn't be too bad. I think we can just take some flat bar, cut a slot that fits in there. We'll weld those ears to this piece on either side, and then we'll throw it up in there and weld it on either side, and it should be good to go. So yeah, let's do that. We went 7 inches, a 1/4 inch slot, 1.5 inches up from the bottom. Okay, let's go cut these. Okay, so we'll take our new pieces, we'll weld these on here, and I think we'll 45 those. Go snip those. Got our notch cut. Let's see.
Do you want me to run and get your back?
Okay, so to make sure that our offset was the same, we took our measurement off of this one to see what this was, which it's 1 3/4. So we drew our line 1 3/4 off the back edge. Then we're going to take these and then we're going to tack that on there on both sides. Our other one will be like this. And then we'll be ready to weld this out, get it over there and weld it on the trailer and get it done. Okay, so we've got our frame all cleaned up. We were able to scarf everything off, cleaned it up with a grinder, brought our piece over that we got welded up on the table. It's sitting up in here now. As you can see, it looks pretty good where it's at there. This side looks really good. This side over here has some gap, if you can see that. But there's not much we can do about that. The reason it has gap is because the I-beam was bent, so we're just going to have to deal with a little bit of gap on this other side, and we're just going to trigger it up because we don't want things to get too hot. We've already created a whole bunch of other crap for us to deal with because when we scarfed off the weld, we melted some water line up underneath, so we've got to cut the water line and put a splice in it now. So that's fun. There was no way around it because they had this welded on the outside and the inside, and there's no way to get a grinder in there everywhere where they welded it. So our only option was to either use a torch or plasma, and obviously we used plasma. We got it out, but we melted some water line in the process. So I guess we'll get the welder pulled over here and get welding it up. Okay, so as you can see, I'm just triggering it just to try to keep things cool. I don't want anything getting too hot and melting more crap up in there. I'm just going to weld a little bit and let it cool. Weld a little bit and let it cool. Okay, so we got it all welded out, both sides. Got our gap all filled up. We can bolt the jack back on. We're going to clean up the welds with a wire wheel. I got to tear the bottom off of this and see what's burnt so I can fix it all. So we're going to go to that point. Okay, well, we got the skirting pulled back. There's our melted water lines. We had a small fire up in there, so that was cool. We were able to check everything else. There's all kinds of crap back there that we didn't know, and there's no way we would know unless, you know, we tore the whole trailer apart. So there's electrical, there's water lines, there's hydraulic lines for the jacks. Luckily, the only thing that really took damage was the water lines. We've got our PEX crimpers. We went and got a couple shark bites where we can't get the crimpers in, so we're just going to get the PEX fixed. And then we're going to have to just test everything before we button up the skirting again. So that's where we're at. Okay, so we're just trying to get everything buttoned back up. We got some spray foam insulation we're going to spray up in the hole like it was before. I did not know that stuff burned so well, but that's pretty much what caused the fire. So we're going to put another screw down on this end, get this tightened back up, and then we should be able to throw the jack back on. I don't really want to put the insulation in and button this back up too well just yet, because I want to make sure that the customer checks everything and make sure that it's working properly before I do that. So okay, so the jack's a little banged up here. There's a little hooner in this, so we're going to take it over to the table, see if we can whack on that, flatten it out. Pretty good. It's supposed to be right there. Okay. Okay. We've finished the jack modification, fix, install, whatever you want to call it, and it was a treat. So anyway, it's done. So we're gonna close the first chapter of this trailer. We're gonna pull it out of here. I don't have material for the hitch until Monday, so I gotta go pick that up Monday, and then once I have material we can start on that. But we've made quite a mess on this project. We did get the water lines fixed that we caught on fire. I've taken pictures so I can show the customer. Hopefully he's good with it. I mean, I know he's not good with us starting his trailer on fire, but, you know, hopefully he's okay with how we fixed it. What do? Sometimes with these trailers, you just don't know what's behind what you're cutting or welding on, and there's no way we would have known unless we'd have tore the skirting off beforehand. And nobody likes to tear stuff apart for no reason, but nobody really likes to tear stuff apart when you catch them on fire either. But anyway, alright, we're pulling this out of here. Okay, so tonight we're going to try to get the gussets and the side plates and everything cut out for the hitch, possibly tacked together. It'd be nice if we could weld the hitch out and have it all ready to mount on the trailer. So we're going to go ahead and get going on it. Okay, so we're just going to work off the forklift here. I've got my sharp soapstone here, tape measure, square, straight edge, measurements all laid out here. I'm going to get them all laid out to where I'm using the least amount of plate as possible. We're going to get it all laid out, and once it's good, we'll cut it out and we'll go from there. Okay, so we're just getting ready to cut our plate. I've got my cut guide here. If you've never seen these, there's two magnetic pieces on it that you can loosen and slide up and down this piece. It's just a piece of flat bar. You set it up offset from your line that you want to cut, and I know that mine needs to be a 1/2 inch off the cut guide. So I just take my tape measure and I measure 1/2 inch off the cut guide on both ends, and then I know it's going to give me a nice straight line as long as I keep my torch straight up and down. So we're just going to go ahead and start cutting these pieces out, and they're all straight lines, so it should be easy, and we'll get her done. Okay, so we got our pieces cut. If you can see this, that's a pretty crappy cut for a plasma. The reason it's so bad, it's actually because the consumables in the torch need replaced, and I didn't realize it till halfway through. You can see that they're kind of wore out. Well, when they get wore out, then they give you a crappy cut like that. So it's not that big a deal. I'll be able to clean it up with a grinder, and it's getting welded up against the surface anyway, so you'll never be able to tell. But that's really all we needed to cut out for now. I'm going to see if I can't make these other cuts on the iron worker. It's kind of old and tired, but I think she'll be able to do it. Guess that answers that. She's too old and too tired, so I guess we're gonna have to plasma cut them. I don't know if you can see that electrode, but it is shot, and so's the nozzle. It don't look very good, so we're gonna swap them out. That's more like it. Okay, so we're just going to get the rest of these cuts. We got a 1, 2, 3, 4 more cuts to make, so we're just going to hurry and cut these and then clean them up. Okay, so now we got our parts over on the table. We got to clean these up. We're just going to take a hard disc. We got some ugly edges here. We got to clean those up, square them off. We're going to do that right now. So we got our 3-inch tube in the saw. We're just getting ready to cut it. I got it measured at 68 1/16 inch. I know a lot of you guys are probably going to think that's petty, but I want it as close to centered on the I-beams of the trailer as possible. We're going to go ahead and cut that now. We'll get it over on the table and then we can start fitting our gussets. We're going to cut the receiver hitch in just a second, and that is 2.5 inch tube, quarter wall. So we'll get that in after this and then we can start fitting it up. Okay, so now we've got our 2.5 tube in the saw. We're going to cut a 12-inch piece. We've still got to put a collar on the end of it. We've got to drill our hole for our pin. So let's do it. Okay, we got our tube over on the table. Parts are all cleaned up. Now I'm just going to go through and lay out our side gussets so that we know where we need to tack our tube that runs perpendicular to the trailer. And so we'll get these laid out. We'll get it set up. We're going to have to block it up so that we get our gaps right and everything. We'll get that tacked up, and then we'll start getting our gussets in place. And then we got to figure out what we're going to do with the receiver. Okay, so we've got some just 1-inch stock here, square stock we're going to use for our spacers. We'll set those underneath our tube. Then we'll take our end gussets, we'll set these up. We've got our marks on there, and then we'll just set them up so we know exactly where we need to tack. I've just measured 1 inch off the bottom and off the back side, so I know where to set this up and tack it. Okay, so we've got that tacked into place. So what we've got here is we take our 7x12 gussets, and those will weld here. And then we take our 7x7 gussets. We'll have our receiver coming off here, and then the 7x7s will go on either side of that. And then our receiver's tacked into place, we can weld it out. So I'm going to get the gussets tacked into place here and on the other end, and then I'm going to take a minute and figure out what I want to do with the receiver. If you look at this 2.5 tube, it's actually got a weld joint in it. I don't know if you can see that. I should have got what's called DOM, drawn over mandrel, and it's built different. This has the weld joint in it, but DOM doesn't have a joint inside of it, so if you need to sleeve something, then you don't have to deal with that. So I'm gonna have to grind that weld joint out so he can slide his hitch in, but we'll make it work. Okay, so we've got our receiver piece on the table here. We're gonna get it laid out so that we can drill our hole for our pin. I'm coming 2.5 inches off the end. That'll be the center of our hole for our pin. So you can see I just got it laid out right there. Found center of the tube. Now we're just going to go get it put in the vise on the mill, and we'll get it drilled. Okay, so we got our workpiece in the mill over here in the vise. We got our drill chuck in. We've got a center drill in the drill chuck. And we're going to center drill this workpiece first, and then we're going to run a 5/8 bit through it. The reason you center drill it first is because you want it to be dead center in the tube. We're going to go ahead and get that drilled now. So we're center drilled now. Now we're going to go ahead, get our 5/8 bit put in, and then we're going to drill a hole. We're not going to move our table because we want everything to stay in line. We're just going to drop the table down until we can get our 5/8 bit here in the chuck, and then we're going to drill it. But we don't want to move anything else, so everything's in line. So now I'm going to cut a 3/4 inch piece of 3-inch tube that slides over the top of this for our collar, and then we'll go ahead and get that welded on. Okay, so I got my chunk of 3-inch square tube cut here, and I actually went 7/8, not 3/4. I just like the look of 7/8 better. So that's going to slip right over the top of this, but we've got that weld seam in there again, so I'm just going to take a chisel and I'm going to smack that off. If I have to get the die grinder out, I will, but that should slide right over the top of that. So when it does, and it actually goes right here because there's our hole for our pin, so I'm going to slide that right over the top of that, and then once I get it on, I'm going to weld the back side of it. I'm going to weld this back side around the whole thing. And then I actually like to take and just trigger up this joint and then buff it flat. That way when you paint it, water doesn't get in there and you don't get rust bleeding out of there. So we're going to see if we can smack that seam off, and then we'll get this tacked on and weld it out. So I got that chipped off of there. Let's see if it fits. Oh yeah. Perfect. Okay, so we're going to put it on just like that. And then we're going to weld that whole back side. And that's going to be our receiver. That's what we're doing. We're just triggering that up. We're going to do all 4 sides, and then we're going to weld solid on that back side. Okay, receiver's all cleaned up, welded out on both sides. It's all drilled, so now we're ready to take it. We're going to center it in our hitch, and then we're going to center it up and down. We're going to get that tacked on. Then we've got our 7x7 gussets that are going to go just like that. And then once we get that tacked up, we can weld the whole thing out, and then our hitch is ready to go on the trailer. Okay, so we got our receiver set up on some spacers here. We got it centered in our 3-inch tube. So we got the same gap top and bottom. We've got some soapstone marks here to center it up. We've pulled a tape across it to make sure we're exactly centered, which we are. So now we're just going to go ahead and tack it, get our gussets tacked on, make sure everything is square, and then we'll be ready to weld it out. Okay, it's gonna wrap up the tacking. The other thing I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a piece of tube or angle or something, and I'm gonna tack it on this end down to that end to keep it from warping, because once you get all this weld in there, it heats it up. And then the last one I did, those started to bend a little bit and I ended up having to tweak them back out. It's time to start burning some wire.
Okay, you're good, good.
Alright, so we're underneath the trailer here, just trying to get a game plan. Looks like there's two stellar looking welds on the inside here, and then on the outside it's welded solid, so we're gonna have to scarf this off. So we'll get it scarfed off, but I think before we do that, I'm gonna grind these off and then pull this piece of trim off so that I can flip the skirting out of the way and make sure there's no other surprises up inside there that we can start on fire. I've had enough of that on this project already. So let's do it. on the table. Okay, so we got our skirting popped down here. Got all our wires flipped back out of the way so that we're not going to meld anything or get anything too hot here. So we're going to go ahead and get a game plan together. It would be better if I could get it with a zip disc, because then I don't have to worry about starting more crap on fire. So I think I'm going to try it. Try it with that first. If we have to, then we'll get mean. You can see this is really light gauge stuff. The gusset on it's pretty small. It's all light gauge steel. This is 5/16 looks like. I think he said this one was only rated for 1,200 pounds. Going to be quite the upgrade. Okay, so now we just got to get our frame rails all cleaned up. You can see we got some metal left here from where they were welded on. So we're just going to take the grinder, clean that up, and then we got to clean all the paint off so we can get a good clean weld on both sides. So we're going to do that now. Okay, so we got some more voiceover here because the boys are having a hard time figuring out the audio situation. So we got the frame rails all cleaned up, we got the paint all ground off, and it's ready to have the hitch welded on it. And I'm really not sure what I was saying here, but it does look like someone should probably tie my hands behind my back and see if I can still talk. Okay, moving on. Okay, so we've got our hitch cleaned up, sitting on the floor here. We're just getting ready to get it up on the floor jack. The back end of this trailer is pretty high, so we might have to block it up, but we're gonna see if we can't get it up there and put it in place so we can get it ready to tack it up. Oh, Nelly. I'm just checking to make sure it looks like it's lined up. We've pulled a measurement off the back of the frame. We're 2 inches on each side. It looks good back here, so I think we're going to go ahead and tack the front, and then we'll be ready to run our welds down the frame line. And so we'll just run it inside and out on both sides. The welding process that we're using is dual shield MIG. And so we're running straight CO2 gas, flux core wire. We're running it at 24.5 volts. The wire speed's about 315 inches a minute. This process is really good for structural things because you get really good penetration. Let's do it. got our plate up on the forklift. This last piece that we're cutting, this is the piece that the safety chain's hooked to, and we got to cut a circle out where the plug can go for your wiring for your trailer. So we'll show you once we get it set up over there what we got in mind, but this is just a 17 by 5-inch piece. We'll have a hole here and a hole here for the safety chains, and then we're going to put a hole somewhere over here for our plug for our wiring. But we've just about got it cut. We've got this last cut to make, and then we'll show you what we're thinking. We're using an 1.5-inch hole saw to cut our holes for the safety chains. We're going to get that done, and then we're going to break it. Then we'll take a look at what we want to do for our lights for our trailer. Okay, here's our part. We've got it broke, and it's going to weld on right there. And then I think what we're going to do after we get that welded on is we'll cut a piece that goes right here that has a circle cut out for our trailer lights. So we're going to go ahead and get this tacked up and welded on. We're going to go grab a plug and then hurry and wire it up, and it'll be done. We'll go from there. So in this section we were taking a test light, and I had the boys in the truck. I'd have them push on the brakes or turn the blinker on or turn the headlights on so that I could figure out which wire was which, and that's how I knew which wire on the cable section to tie in to the existing wire on the trailer. So I just used these butt splice heat shrink connectors. I like those because you can heat shrink them and then they're waterproof, and then when it's all done they're nice and neat, tucked back up inside, and you shouldn't have to worry about any sort of wire issues later on that have to do with water, that is. Okay, so we've got our wires all heat shrunk now. We're ready to tuck them back up underneath here and then get our skirting pulled back down, get our trim put back in, and then we're going to wire up the plug and give it a test. Okay, so we got our skirting pulled back. We're just getting ready to attach it. We've cut a little hole that we've run our trailer light cable through. We're going to hook that to our plug right there. We'll probably have some sort of a attachment right here that screws to the hitch just to keep it from bouncing around or getting pulled out. So we'll see if we can't get that attached. Okay, there it is. Yes, sir. Okay, so we got our skirting nice and tight, put back into place up here, and we're going to get that plug wired in. Okay, well, we got the hitch in, we got the lights hooked up, we got our plug put in, and I think it turned out good. We were going to paint it, but customer said they wanted to paint the bracket for the jack that we fixed, so I'm going to get a hold of them and see if they want to paint this too. The reason I say that is because it's pouring rain outside, so I really don't want to paint it and then pull it outside and have it get rained on, so we'll see what they say. It had its challenges just like every other project, but it turned out good. Pretty happy with it. So that's gonna wrap this one up.
Like and subscribe.
And thanks for watching.
Oh, freaking hot.
Over my ear.
Oh, sparks everywhere. There's a bunch of freaking holes in this shirt. Aw, shoot!
What?
Look at the top right corner.
Well, son of a... Maybe just get back. How do I say this? Oh. So we're gonna take... I got that wrong. How the hell do you do that? Oh, like that. Video this.
I am.
Just double check me.
The orange. Wait.
Black's on the outside, right?
Yeah, black is towards the wheels. It's on the outside.
Orange is closer to the trailer.
Yeah, that's better.
That was terrible.
Black is close to the wheels.
Black is close to the wheels.
It's recording. Oh.
Nice.
Oh, it's not good. It's not damaged, but it's broken.
Rick, watch the back so it doesn't hit anything.
Yeah, who's watching the back?
Me! The other thing that would be good to do is, I think I'm going to take some sort of piece of tube, piece of angle, something, and tack it down here at the end, from this end to that end. The other thing wow, that was fast. Alright, so we're over here, we got our plate. We're over here, we got our, move your fingers.
We're at 2%.
Okay, we'll make it.
And we're on the last battery.
We'll make it.